Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. So this is part 2 of Q&A Tuesday. I have so many questions on this episode today, so I had to split it up into 2 different episodes. So let's continue on with Q&A Tuesday. Number 11. About pre-employment exams when they're testing your knowledge about your medical coding skills. There's really no way to prepare for these because it just depends on what facility that you are applying with and how they're structuring their test. I've had some pre-employment exams that were 25 questions. I've had some that were 50 questions. I've had some that were 75 questions. So it really all depends, and it is always going to be a mix of different variety type of questions, whether it's coding charts or coding just encounters. They're usually going to give you a scenario or whatever the case may be. Sometimes they'll give you multiple choice questions. It just depends on what they are particularly looking for and what setting are you applying in, whether it is inpatient, outpatient, or surgery coding. So it could be any number of things. Try not to get overwhelmed. Again, rely on your knowledge. Rely on the things that you've learned so far and play up your strengths. So if you know how to research, try to find the answer as best you can. Again, just try to do the best you can because they are just looking to gauge how detailed you are. Are you catching these little things that they're looking for? And of course, are you selecting the correct diagnosis? Because you have, in the procedures, because you have to be able to know how to do this. Okay? So that's my only advice on that, and just basically rely on your knowledge, okay? And just do a lot of research if you can. Make sure that you can look up these answers as quickly as possible, because a lot of times they are not timed, but you do have to have a certain amount of time to get these tests back to them. Just be sure to do the best you can, okay? And then just let it all play out. And sometimes when you're interviewing, they'll tell you what you missed, so this way you can sort of either concentrate on that particular subject, or maybe you can brush up, on things that maybe you have forgotten, okay? Number 12, how are breaks structured in a day? So when you are working, okay, it depends on your facility. But for my facility, I will say this. We work an 8-hour day, okay? There are some people who work a different schedule. Sometimes they work 9 hours, and they have like a day off in between. But I don't work that schedule. I only work 8-hour days, and we get 2 15-minute breaks during an 8-hour day, one every 4 hours. So in addition to our lunch, so we get however long we have for our lunch. I have a 30-minute lunch. Some people have opted to have 1 hour for lunch. I think it's too long. I had an hour when I first got to this facility in the beginning because they had us on a set schedule back then. So we had to be whatever they told us to. So I had 1 hour for lunch, and I was like, gosh, it's so long. But sometimes if you have some errands to do during lunch, it'll work out. Now I have 30 minutes. And I have a 15-minute break in the morning and a 15-minute break in the afternoon. I cannot use these breaks in conjunction with my lunchtime. I cannot use that 15-minute break to come in later. I have to take that break midpoint between the time I arrive and the time I take lunch. And then by the time when I'm finished with lunch, when I come back from lunch, till the time I leave, I got to take it midpoint in between there as well. It is very important to take breaks when you are doing medical coding, because even though you are sitting down a lot of times, you're still staring at a computer screen. And when you stare at a computer screen, your eyes do get tired. I've had instances where I just have forgotten. I'm just so into whatever I'm doing that I won't get up, and I'm just like, just staring at the screen, and like, I know I have to take a break because like my eyes will get tired. So always give yourself a break, even when you're reading. Be sure to just look away, look up from time to time, maybe look to the side, maybe look down, just some sort of way of just, getting your eyes to blink and and just sort of give them a rest from looking at screen. You want to be able to maintain your energy. So if you need to get up and move around a little bit. Like I said, we do sit. It's a very sedentary job. I tend to be up and around sometimes because I'm either running here, running there to my different providers. And because half of my providers are close to me and the other half are on the other side of the hospital, I do have to get up and go and go see them occasionally. So that does help to get me to be moving around a little bit. Uh, in the morning when I take my break and I will go get coffee because coffee is so important. And if you've watched some of my other videos, you know I don't like to have coffee very first thing in the morning. I have to mentally be awake so that I can appreciate my coffee when I do have it. So when I'm taking my break, I'm usually running down to the coffee shop so that I can grab a nice cup of coffee because I like the way they make coffee there. Um, I, and usually when I'm bringing my coffee back, maybe I'll see somebody that I know and maybe somebody will stop and say hello or whatever, but I usually will make a beeline from the coffee shop back to my office and, get continue to get going on whatever I'm doing. And it all depends on how you're structuring your day, but that is how we do things. We get 2 15-minute breaks. We are allowed to have a little bit of flexibility when we do that. Sometimes providers, sometimes supervisors want you to have a set time that you're taking your break. I'm fortunate in that I don't have to have that. They trust us. And so when you're given a little bit of leeway, I always respect that. I never abuse it. And the same thing with lunch times. There's no letting them know we're coming in or leaving or whatever. We are responsible for our time. We are responsible for making sure that we leave on time for lunch and come back on time for lunch. Okay. And if you don't, then you need to call in and you need to let your supervisor know because somebody will say something, so it's better to always be truthful with your time. And so that's what we do at our facility. Not every facility is the same, okay? Some are different. We are allowed to, we have a window that we can take our lunch time. So I don't always take lunch at the same time. It just depends on what's going on. If I have a lot of meetings going on, sometimes I will take my lunch a little bit later, but we have between 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. So in between that time, you can take your 30-minute lunch during that time. You just have to be back in the 30 minutes. And so, like I said, sometimes if I'm in a meeting and it's running late, I will just take my lunch a little bit later. Sometimes I'll take it at 12:30. Sometimes I will take it at 12:15. It all depends. And sometimes I will take it right at 11 o'clock because it just depends on what's going on. And then if I have a meeting scheduled for the afternoon, I will take my lunch a little bit earlier so that way I can get all of that out of the way and I can be prepared and I'll have time to prepare for my meeting in the afternoon. So it all depends where you are. These are good questions to ask in the beginning. What is the schedule like and things like that. But it is important to take these breaks as much as you sometimes want to power through, your breaks or your lunchtime. You have to stop and you have to take a break. You have to mentally get away from what you're doing for a little while because you never want to burn yourself out. That is all about that self-care and being able to control what you are how much stress you're allowing yourself and how you're managing that stress. To me, sometimes people would say, well, Blue, the way that you have your video set up and your days, it just sounds so stressful. To me, it's not. This makes my day go by so much faster. And sometimes I wish I had more hours in the day, but I don't. So for me, it works for me. This is a long time, and this is a buildup of discipline. And like I said, there are days when I have to close the door and really concentrate on whatever it is I'm doing, but taking care of making sure that I'm taking these breaks and eating lunch when I'm supposed to or when I feel hungry. These are things that are very important. Okay, so your body will signal to you when it needs a break too. So just always be sure to take care of yourself when you're working. And if you're worried about production, I can't take my break because I'm not going to meet my quota. You can take your break, okay? Because it's not going to help you if you get sick, if you make yourself sick, as far as like maybe your eyes hurt, or you're just not getting up, and maybe you feel really tired because you're not moving around. It's very important to just maintain taking care of yourself. Okay, so breaks are very important for this. Even though we do mental work, you still have to take a break. So that's my advice on that one. Number 13, which is the last question of the evening, is always be willing to say yes. It is more advice than it is a question. Always be willing to say yes. When you're asked to do something that you are unfamiliar with, just say yes, okay? Take in as much experience as you possibly can. This way you can add to your resume. You can build, your skill set. You can't possibly move forward if you get used to one particular type of clinic or one particular type of coding, and you don't want to do anything else because you are just very strong in that and you don't want to learn anything else. That's not the attitude to have, okay? If you are new, if you have been a coder for a long time, if you are a new student, always keep that in mind. It's very important to always be willing to expand your skill set. And by doing that, you have to be willing to take the most uncomfortable stuff that you don't want to take. If you're not comfortable coding in a particular clinic because you don't feel strong in that, then you need to study so that you can feel strong in it. The more exposure you have to more clinics, the more confident you will get, because being that well-rounded coder and being strong in a lot of areas is going to make you more valuable. You want to make yourself as valuable as you possibly can, okay? And it takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of energy, but when you're doing that, the rewards are limitless, I say, and whether it is professional or personal, those rewards are very fruitful. If you invest yourself and your time into it, to me, it does show its rewards after a while. Okay. And the final thing for closing out tonight's episode is never, ever, ever, ever give up. Failure is not an option. I had to say that to myself so many times in the beginning. Failure is not an option. Especially, I said that to myself, failure is not an option, mostly when I had to move away from home for my second job. That's what I said to myself. I was moving into this great unknown that I didn't know anybody. I literally had to move from my hometown to another city that was far away. It's at least 8 hours away from home. And it was like, I didn't know anybody. I was starting in this new place. I had a job, yes, and I had an apartment, sure. But it was the fact that I was literally out there with nobody. You know what I mean? Like, I literally had to start from the ground up, and I had to apply myself, and I had to make sure that I had that in my mind, that I was not going to fail. I had to make that work. I had to be successful. I had to push myself, no matter how bad. There was days I wanted to go home because it was just like, what am I doing? Did I pick the right field? Am I learning enough? Did I learn enough? Did I study enough? It's all about just making sure that you are that you're really just applying everything that you've ever learned, and being willing to fall down and get right back up. Okay? If you fall down, you get right back up, because the more persistent you are with it, the better off you'll be. Okay? But failure is not an option. And if you're in that position right now where you're having to apply and apply and apply, and they keep telling you no, they keep telling you no, just keep going. I have one viewer who had been applying for 7 years, and she finally got in. Now, this is, of course, very extreme, 7 years of applying, but she finally did it. She finally got in, and she's a medical coder now, So, and like I said, everybody's path is different, okay? Everybody's journey in medical coding is different. I took a lot of hits in the beginning, as far as like getting that door closed in my face, and we can't hire you because you don't have any experience. And I'm like, how are you supposed to get experience if you won't hire me? You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. But it was about being persistent, and it was about having a good support system. I had my mom, and having my mom and her helping me and getting me through that time was what really saved me. As far as like, there was times that I just wanted to throw in the towel, because it was just like, really, I'm like trying so hard. But my mom was really good at saying, nope, gotta keep going no matter what. And I'm very lucky for that. So but yes, have a good support system. And sometimes people don't have access to supportive people, and that's okay. If you're on your own, it's okay. We're all here to support, and we're all here to give a good, encouraging word. At least that's my philosophy. I've always been positive. I've always been encouraging, because I think that there is so much negativity in the world, that why would I want to be one more negative person? I'm real and I'm very honest, but I think that there is a way of saying things that is very positive, and that's something that I learned from my mom. My mom was very positive, and when she passed away, it was very, very hard, because like I said, I had just gotten to where I am now, and I hadn't been here very long, and she had passed away. So it was very, very hard, but just everything that she had taught me and instilled in me, as far as like being persistent and just keep going and make sure that you stay positive, having all of that really does help, and which is what drives me. It still drives me still today. So I try to pass that on to others. When I see people that they feel discouraged, I'm like, no, you can do this, because I had that same force of, you can do this, and this would help me. So that's why I try to make my contribution to the medical coding society of, this is what I can share, good, positive energy. And yes, you can, because there are so many people that say, no, you can't. And I'm going to be the one that says, yes, you can, because yes, you can. If I can, and I had zero background in medical, and I find it this fascinating, wonderful field today, it did a lot for me. Like I said, I said this before in other videos. I don't know where I would be if I wasn't a medical coder, but I enjoy what I do. And I think that that's really awesome, because some people spend their entire careers never being truly satisfied in what they do. So I will go ahead and close this out, because that's enough talking for me. But if you guys have any other questions, let me know. I will always be stockpiling questions for next week's Q&A Tuesday. So I will be filming more videos this week, so never fear. And I will go ahead and close this out. So I will see y'all on the next video. But if you are a medical coder, a medical coding student, somebody curious about the fascinating world of medical coding, a provider or a nurse, I hope you'll like and subscribe and follow me on my journey in medical coding. All right, I will see y'all on the next video. Bye.